Sometimes the biggest revolutions start with just a few words on a page. Today, we're going to dig into a really interesting update to a huge international standard, one that pretty much every kind of business around the world uses. And yeah, it might look like a tiny tweak, but trust me, the ripple effects are going to be massive.
So, this whole thing boils down to just two sentences. That's it. But when those sentences get added to something as big as ISO 9001, we're talking the global gold standard for quality. Well, even a tiny change like this makes huge waves. It's actually a perfect example of how changing one little thing in a core document can set off a chain reaction in how businesses operate everywhere.
So, what is this change? Well, to put it simply, the folks at the International Organization for Standardization have officially woven climate change into the very fabric of quality management. This move really reflects what's happening on a global scale, this big push for companies to be more responsible. It connects the dots between running a great organization and being a good steward of the environment, something this standard has never really done before.
Okay, before we get too deep into the new stuff, let's just hit pause and make sure we're all on the same page. What even is ISO 9001? Why do over 1 million organizations, from the biggest corporations to tiny local shops, actually use this thing?
The best way to think about a quality management system is to picture the inside of a really well-made watch, right? It's not about any single gear. It's about how all the little pieces, planning, making the product, leadership, everything, all mesh together perfectly to give you a result that's consistent and reliable every single time. So here's the bottom line. ISO 9001 is basically the recipe. It's an internationally agreed upon framework that helps a company get its act together so it can consistently make customers happy. It's the playbook for running a tight ship.
And this playbook isn't just a random collection of rules. No, it's built on a really clear philosophy, a set of core principles that really get to the heart of what quality means for a business.
At the very core of ISO 9001, you've got these 7 principles. They're like the DNA of the whole system. They push a company to be completely focused on its customers, to be led by strong leaders, and to get everyone on the team involved and engaged. It's all about seeing your business as a series of connected processes and using actual data, not just guesswork, to constantly get better.
Now, if those principles are the philosophy, there's a powerful engine that makes it all happen. And this is a concept that is absolutely central to how ISO 9001 works. It's called the PDCA cycle.
This diagram here shows you exactly how it works. You can see it's not a straight line, right? It's a continuous loop. This isn't some checklist you do once and forget about. It's a living, breathing cycle of improvement. See how things like customer needs go in one end, flow through the whole system, and come out the other end as better results? That's the idea. Let's break it down real simple. First, you plan. You figure out what you want to achieve. Then, you do it. You actually execute the plan. Now, here comes the most important part. You check. You measure your results and see if you actually did what you said you were going to do. And finally, you act. Based on what you learned, you make things better. And then, the whole cycle starts all over again. It's an engine for getting better, forever. Okay, so now that we've got a handle on what ISO 9001 is and how it works, let's zoom in on this new amendment. Where in the world do these 2 little sentences actually fit into this whole big structure? So the changes land in a really specific and very important part of the standard called Clause 4, and that location is key. This whole section is about understanding the world your company operates in. So by putting it here, they're making climate a foundational, strategic issue, not just some afterthought you deal with down the line. And here it is. This is the actual page from the standard. Clause 4.1 is all about understanding the organization and its context. And if you look all the way down at the bottom, after everything else, you see it. One new sentence, just tacked on at the end, almost hiding in plain sight. And this is the first sentence. It's so simple, but so direct. Now that word shall, in the world of ISO, that's not a suggestion, it's a command, it's mandatory. So now every organization must actively sit down and figure out if climate change is a relevant issue for them. You can't just ignore it anymore. The second change shows up on the very next page in Clause 4.2. This part is all about identifying your interested parties. Your customers, your investors, your employees, the government, and figuring out what they expect from you. This new note basically says, hey, by the way, those stakeholders of yours, they might have their own demands when it comes to climate change. This is huge because it connects directly to things like investors demanding better ESG performance or big customers pushing their suppliers to be greener.
So it's not just about how climate affects you, but what others expect you to do about it.
So we've seen the text, we know where it is. But what does this actually mean for the people on the ground, for the managers running the show and the auditors who check their work? Let's talk about what really happens now. This is the million-dollar question, right? It's not enough to just say, yep, we thought about it. This new rule forces a much deeper, more strategic kind of thinking inside the quality system itself. Your management meetings are going to have to include questions like these. If you're a food company, you might be talking about the risk of drought to your suppliers. If you're a manufacturer, maybe you're talking about opportunities for new green products. And for everybody, it means asking, hey, are our biggest customers going to drop us if we don't take this seriously? Climate strategy is now officially part of business planning. And it's not just the managers. For the auditors, the people who come in and certify that companies are actually following the ISO 9001 standard, well, their job just changed too. They have a whole new thing they have to investigate in every single audit. An auditor is now going to walk in and ask for the receipts. They'll want to see meeting minutes, risk reports, strategic plans, anywhere climate change was discussed. They're going to check if you just ticked a box or if you really thought about it. The key word is evidence. You have to prove it. This really just says it all. For decades, ISO 9001 was mostly focused inward, on the product, the service, the immediate customer. This amendment blows that view wide open. It says that real quality in the 21st century means you also have to understand your company's role in these huge global challenges. And that leaves us with this one big, kind of crazy thought. By quietly tucking this rule into the world's most popular business standard, did the ISO just draft over 1 million companies and all their quality managers and auditors into the fight against climate change? It's just a tiny, tiny change, but who knows? It could be the start of something absolutely enormous.